Okay.
I'm not worried.
So worried.
This is the look of unworried.
Good morning, Michelle. This is JoyGenea. Welcome to If These Heels Could Talk. I'm JoyGenea with Solutions by JoyGenea.
And I'm Michelle with Bad Cat Digital and Supremely Unworried.
Good.
Yeah.
We are supremely unworried.
Yeah.
We've been having actually a pretty good discussion over the last night in more depth about systems and the possibility of over systematizing, which you have a great story. Share that quickly, please.
So yesterday I was watching the TikTok. I love the TikTok. Anyway, there was a little clip of Simon Sinek talking, and he was talking about going to a meeting at an energy company, talking to energy executives.
Yes.
And
I'm there.
it was too hot in the room. So he was like, can we turn down the air conditioning?
Right.
And they're like, sure. And then everybody leaves for lunch, and he comes back and he's like, it's still super hot. What's going on? And they're like, well, we called facilities, and facilities put a ticket in with some central, and they're just waiting for approval before they turn down the air conditioning. And I'm sitting here thinking, irony, energy company.
Yes.
And he was turning into an argument about agency and whether your team members have agency. They can make decisions on their own. I was listening to it and thinking, this is my freaking nightmare. 17 people have to touch something before you can turn down the thermostat that's at your shoulder?
Right.
No.
And
Like, why? What's the purpose? I understand the purpose is cost control, utility management.
Yes.
I've really physically understand the purpose. But they're executives. If you can't trust them to make a decision about a thoughtful decision about air conditioning, then they shouldn't be exectives.
Right. You've got bigger issues on your hands.
Yeah. I mean, it would be different if I was running, I don't know, I'm going to pick a Radio Shack, a retail store that's no longer a retail store, a company that's no longer a company.
Yeah.
If I was running a Radio Shack and I had 72 stores, I might think to myself, each store's got 15 employees. Most of them are young. I should probably think about some centralized decision making.
But that wasn't what that was.
No.
And
it was over systematized.
Well,
over systematized.
I know I can think of a variety of times when you've dealt with government agencies.
Oh God. I
can tell you that in the last year dealing with my father's estate, trying to deal with financial institutions, that honestly was worse. I personally gave the government more thumbs up in their flexibility than those companies. Those companies were appalling on multiple levels, especially the really, really big ones. You definitely, by the way, want your own financial advisor. Don't try to work directly with the big companies.
Oh my gosh, no.
They don't care.
Well, they don't want to talk to you.
They don't, and they're not pretending like it's a bad relationship. It's like
they're
a
not
bad
even
relationship.
pretending they want to talk to you. Yeah.
So we as small business owners are always striving to add more. I don't care how small you are. You're always trying to add process
efficiencies.
Yes.
Because you have limited resources and you have a lot of things you need to do with them.
But Michelle and I are both doing it at very different levels because I'm more of the solopreneur with subcontractors. My systems are definitely different, and they're very flexible because subcontractors come in and out. Like there's outlines of processes and procedures.
Well, so your systems and processes, this is interesting. Mm-hmm. Your systems and processes have to primarily work for you.
Correct.
And then they have to flex to different people coming in and out. Yes. So they have to be really easy to communicate. They have to be really easy to follow. They have to be very accessible.
And they have to be able to adjust to what tools they're using.
Right.
Because we tend to be, everybody's on a little bit of a different platform.
Right.
I'm learning.
So you can't systematize around Trello, for example, because not everybody's on Trello.
Right. Because they might be over on Slack.
Right.
Maybe they're using the Microsoft family of products.
Right.
Like
maybe they're Apple people.
Right.
Yeah.
So you wind up, I have to be more agile in that manner. And I can't control all that. It's not under my umbrella. So I've given away some of that. Like,
you don't want to like make it a requirement for somebody to contract with you that they use these 17 softwares all at once.
Right. Well, I'd have a heck of a time getting really good contracts.
You'd have
let's just make this really clear.
Let's make it really. So you take the onus on yourself to create systems and processes that flex in that way.
Yes.
To make it easier to work with the contractors you work with.
Yep. But we still have ways to follow a project, to make sure things are happening, all of that kind of stuff. But
checks and balances.
It has to have breathing room.
Right. It has to be able to breathe.
Yeah, it has to. So you, on the other hand,
we're in this situation where multiple team members have to be able to follow the same process, and everybody kind of needs input in some way.
Okay.
Where processes the crossover between teams that have different leaders, all of these things are kind of in flux. So as you try and
create the buckets, so if stuff comes in and then it goes into its allocated
spaces, but the allocated space at different steps of a process, or it might be in a different bucket.
Got it.
So there has to be paths between them.
Perfect. Okay.
Right? They can't be siloed. They have to kind of be considered together.
Because that's what was happening in your story.
Right.
That had become so siloed.
Things had become so siloed that it wasn't. It's not achievable. And so what we're looking at is processes and systems. And what I've discovered is that we have to develop them, we have to build them, and we have to develop and build them for the average, for the mean. If we're thinking about a bell curve, like tall in the middle and then kind of comes down on the side, we have to do it for 80% of the instances.
So it's just like school.
Right. But then what happens is the margins start to show the weakness of the system.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
And so if the system is working perfectly and 80 perfectly, which is not going to happen.
Yeah, stop that right now.
If the system is working really well in 80% of this times, I would say it's a good system. Mm-hmm. The challenge then is, can that system flex to the other parts, or is it creating conflict at the boundaries, at the edges, in the margins?
That's interesting.
Right?
So that's what was happening in that story.
Right.
They couldn't flex enough to be like, wow, like I got an okay from somebody to change.
Because I developed all the systems the way that you did. Because it was me running through everything, and then as I built a team around me.
Right.
But as the team has grown, I can no longer be the center of it. So now I have to extract those systems and then inject actual and it's difficult and it's taking a long time. And
you
what
don't want to I don't want to
overdo it, because if you overdo it, then you end up 17 people touch something and it takes 3 weeks to answer an email. And
that's not okay.
That seems like an exaggeration, but it's not.
It's not.
Yes.
And every time something goes from here to here to here, over into the other silos and so forth.
Every time somebody touches something, it's at least another 5 minutes.
Well, plus the chances of it being lost, the chances of it,
or not being done correctly because the details haven't. It's like a giant game of telephone.
Oh yeah.
So the details haven't. Right. There was a scene in a movie. It was a Matt Damon movie about car racing, auto racing, Ford,
Ford
something. Ford versus, anyway, really good movie.
Ferrari, I think.
Yeah, Ford versus Ferrari, yes. And they're talking about why they didn't win the race, and Matt Damon kind of follows someone and this red folder. It's interesting.
I remember that, yes.
Up from the lobby of the corporate office to the president or CEO's office. And along the way, 15 people touch this red folder, open it up, look at what's inside of it, close it, and hand it back to the person. They have to approve it before it eventually ends up in the president's hands.
Nice.
What a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
And when Matt Damon is explaining to the president why they didn't win, he's like, that red folder, I followed it up here. You can't win a race like that.
No.
You can win other things like that, but a race is about speed and efficiency.
And it's in the moment. It's the weather.
It's living and breathing. It's a live scenario.
Yes.
So as we're developing systems, I'm watching out for flexibility. Can the system flex to the exception?
Well, and why we wanted to bring this up as a topic, and we'll keep it nice and short, is because you don't have a choice in this right now.
Right.
I really, as things have shifted, one of the key things I'm noticing in hiring right now, when I'm working with clients and so forth, they're hiring for agility.
Yes. They're hiring. I'm hiring for.
Can you flex?
Adaptability.
Yes.
The not only can you adapt to change, but does change excite you or scare you?
Yeah. No, that is if I have heard people interview say things like, I just need a job where I show up and because they're overwhelmed by all the amounts of change.
Everybody's overwhelmed.
It's okay. That's okay. But that is not right now the standard job that's out there. Right. There are those jobs and you need to hunt them down. But I would tell you, for most of us in the private business sector, we're looking for agility. We're looking for the fact, listen, I'm a little overwhelmed by change right now, but I'm flexible. I'm open to this. I would be happy to, give feedback.
The thing that I would say to any employer who's looking for agility and flexibility is also that means that you have to provide agility and flexibility as well.
Yes.
You have to think about how you've conceived and structured a position and be open and flexible to the right candidate's needs. Because anybody, and I think we might be talking about this with a guest very soon, anybody with small children right now is beyond buried.
Yes.
The child care situation, the school situation, getting COVID at parks. I mean, they're basically germ factories, small children.
Right.
And so small children in a pandemic are and then the worry about all of that, and then trying to work on top of that.
And then flexing and adjusting. The daycare providers got it.
Kids don't flex and adjust very well. Kids like structure.
Right. And that's not
and
a thing.
So the tantrums and the emotional issues that are coming out of 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds, and there's the joke on TikTok about pandemic babies being these super babies, and it's true. But there's also a lot of separation anxiety that's coming from kids who don't remember a time without COVID.
And without mom and dad being there.
Without mom and dad literally being there all the time. Can you imagine having a kid who was 6 months old at the beginning of lockdown? First of all, it would have been a joy. It would have been a gift. Yeah. At the same time, now 2 years in, that kid is entering their terrible 3s.
Yeah.
And they don't remember a time when somebody wasn't there all the time.
Yeah.
And now it needs to shift like that.
Yeah. And we're asking employees to do the same. And so making sure that system, I think that's where a lot of systems are being tested right now.
Yes.
Is that, one, I see this a lot. This would be my second statement. Your system, everybody in those particular silos needs to have a backup. Yeah. There needs to be a person
cross-training.
The cross-training, I cannot stress that enough with people right now. I'm just cross-train like an animal.
All of your methods and your thoughts about how to hire, who to hire, how to write a job description, how to recruit, all of that is being called into question.
It really is.
Yep.
And making sure that
it's all on the table.
And making sure that your system, somebody can come into your company and actually
onboard,
and it's not a 3-month, 2-year process.
Can you imagine going from all in office to half remote, and then your onboarding processes aren't
I actually
meant
have a
for
really good friend that took a new job in the middle of this and never went into their onboarding for for somebody who started. It was horrible. He didn't have benefit packets. Like, he didn't get any of the normal, like, two-day HR thing. They would randomly send him videos and be like, you need to watch this.
Yeah.
It was bizarre.
It's really bizarre because
it was bizarre.
We're struggling. My assistant started 6 weeks ago, and one of the things we're really being conscious about is not only her training, but did her onboarding go well? And does she feel connected to the team, to the office? Because without connection to our team, a job is literally something you just click into, do the things, and click out of at the end of the day.
So here's a perfect example of what we're talking about, like, in real time. I have a client that during the pandemic was able to implement a lot of systems.
Yes.
Like, finally, he was just like, now. And so massive amounts of systems. One of his key people, leadership people, has actually been working from home the entire time. So these systems have been put into place. He's not been there on site to see all this stuff, but a whole bunch of other people have been on site doing all this, and he's now going to be coming back into the office. Ooh. And it's very interesting, the conversations he's already being in, like, involved in. They're like, oh, that's really, like, that's not over there anymore. Like, the things you're saying are so 6 months ago, and how do they
look unprepared and like he doesn't know what's going on, but he's gonna feel unprepared and like he doesn't know what's going on.
And so we're definitely we're conscious of that, and we're actually taking we're having communication. This is all about communication.
Right.
We're communicating that when you come back, have the mindset of we used to do it this way. I wonder how we do it now. I call it Curious Explorer. You need to come back like, wow, what does the company look like now? Where did this? Because I'm like, you will become frustrated if you come in feeling like you don't right now. So much has shifted, and that's a hard place to be. Like, that's the breathability of this. That's also important. He's going to come in and have good suggestions,
right?
And so figuring out how to implement them.
Yeah.
But not go backwards and it's about the breathability of the system and the people. So that's a joint flexibility adventure that's going on.
So that's what we're talking about today. Yeah. And that's what we're thinking about right now. We're thinking about our systems. How do we develop them? As we develop them, how do we make sure they're iterative? Meaning, I'm going to develop a system. I'm going to test it in real time. I'm going to try it out. And then we're going to change this. We're going to tweak that. We're going to tweak that. And when something pops up that's an exception, we're going to have a conversation and say, does this exception happen often enough to systematize an answer? Mm-hmm. Or can we just make our systems flexible enough with checks and balances to catch the exception? Like, which path are we taking with this particular exception?
Because at the end of the day, this is about money.
Yeah.
It's always about money.
Always about money.
So it's always about money. Having unhappy customers because your system is too complicated, that's about money.
Yep.
And having unhappy employees and needing to replace them because your system is so wacko, that's about money.
It's all about money.
It really, we're talking about money. We're just talking about it in systems.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today. It's been fun hanging out with you. We hope you've learned a few things and possibly are super excited to check out more of our podcasts. We look forward to seeing you again shortly. Bye now.